countdown to the last comic shop in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I'm burning diesel, I'm burning dinosaur bones. It's the Last Comic Shop podcast. I'm gonna break my rusty cage and run. There's a word cage in that song.
I got it.
See, Mikey got it.
I'm glad Mikey got it.
I'm the host with the most, Andy Larson. I've got dulcet tones, and Mikey seemed to be appreciative. My other co-host, J.A. Scott, Chad Smith, just silent.
They've known
crickets.
you longer, so they're sick of your shit by now. So that's all. Gonna break my rusty cage.
But we are opening up the shop to newbies to help them find their way underneath a comic book tent.
That's right. We're keeping the lights on for the oldies and the moldies and the artistically inclined that find these artists' magnum opuses. Opie?
I could go for a slice of opie. That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Again, crickets. They're not playing ball this week. But we are playing ball with all of you by bringing another comic book review to your ear holes. This week it is Cages by Dave McKean, and it's Mikey's pick. This is arguably one of Mikey's favorite comic books of all time.
Yeah, as far as like the entire experience is concerned and everything is what comics can be and everything. Yes.
It is a hefty tome indeed, which I was telling Mikey before the show started. I've got tennis elbow and just holding this thing. It's hard.
Well, I have it collected, but mine are in like individuals. But they're big ones too. They're that, even though this was like 1990, this first started coming out, they're that whatever size is that DC Black Label stuff is now.
Before we get to the comic book review this week, we always like to have an opening salvo for the Last Comic Shop, and this week is no different. We're going to be playing a game, and that game this week is Mashups. That's right. Those folks that may not have ever listened to an episode of the Last Comic Shop where we played Mashups, it is a game where we have two spinner wheels. One has usually comic book characters, another has something else. And given this is the dead of summer for some of the folks here, and at least in the northern hemisphere, we would have one spinner wheel filled with the most famous teenage superheroes, right? We'll have that. And then what goes hand in hand with teenage superheroes and the summertime? Well, teenage summer jobs that we all had during the summer months to earn a little bit of scratch so we could go out on dates. Or
I had so many terrible summer jobs. So many.
Yeah.
I was a busboy. I worked on a farm throwing hay bales with my friend Fred. I've worked in factories and warehouses. I told you when I worked in the warehouse with the guy that was narcoleptic, and you would see him on the line start to go, and you'd have to hurry over and catch Carl before he smacked his head off the thing.
That's awesome. Catch Carl. Somebody catch Carl.
Oh,
at least he wasn't the person catching the hay bales. That could have killed him.
That's true. That's UPS. That was another job where I threw things at people. Good times.
Any case, let's get into the first round. We're going to go ahead and go youngest to oldest this week. And that would mean that our young head on this show is Mr. Chad Smith. So Chad's going to get the first two things, and he's going to have to mash them up. So first, we're going to get him his summer job here. Ooh, the classic lifeguard. One of the ones I don't think you mentioned.
No.
But also oftentimes very popular job for those teenage workers in the summertime, lifeguards. And which superhero is going to be the lifeguard you're going to have to mash this up with? Supergirl. Wow, this is good. You know, the movie came out this summer, so Supergirl as a lifeguard. Mash that up, son, for all of us to laugh at.
Oh, this is really easy. Because Supergirl, she's a bona fide superhero. She gets her power from the sun. And who gets to soak up more sun than Sheryl Crow? It's lifeguards. But the problem is, we've got this Supergirl, and I'm going to go with the movie one, who's 23 and a bit of an alcoholic and doesn't really have her stuff together. And that is not the type of person you want guarding your lives at the pool. Well, she's either distracted because somebody brought her dog to visit, or she's just too hungover to pay attention and she's got those sunglasses on. I could see Supergirl getting this job with all great intentions and then maybe not being the best or most attentive lifeguard. Hopefully nothing terrible happens as a result, but I could see her being relieved of her duties, just like Krypto relieved himself in the beginning of that movie.
They have those pup nights towards the end of the summertime when they're like,
Did I ever tell you about the time we took our dog to the Gattusi, J.A.? It dissipated before it hit the ground. And I'm there with the bag trying to scoop up particles. And they're just floating further and further in concentric circles of poo.
It's duty! If I had Supergirl's powers and I was a lifeguard and I was hungover, I'd be like, you know what? Let me just heat this pool with my heat rays and burn off all the water. Then I don't have to worry about anyone drowning.
Oh, take away all their fun. Okay.
Yes.
Or somebody cat calls and they go off the diving board and she gives one blow of super breath and instead of landing in the pool, they're landing on the pavement.
All right. Well, next up in terms of youngest to oldest would be the host at the most. So I'm going to take my turn. What is my job for this mashups game? Ooh, I've got the wonderful camp counselor. We are the CITs. Don't pity us. The kids are brats. The food is hideous. Who's going to be our camp counselor for this? It is going to be Kitty Pryde, Shadowcat, Sprite, and then she was also, Ariel at one point, and then Kate Pryde as a camp counselor. I think this is a slam dunk. Again, you've got the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters or whatever, and obviously they can't stay indoors all the time. That would be dumb. Especially when the summertime, they've got lots of things, so they set up a little bit of a summer camp outside the woods or whatever. And so therefore they needed folks that were kind of camp counselors. And you know what? Even though Kitty Pryde said, hey, Charles Xavier is a jerk, she's still also a teacher's pet at times. So she would be like, I'll be one of the camp counselors. And then she would teach people how to sit in a canoe and avoid poison ivy. I don't know, Lockheed would burn the poison ivy if necessary. And then sometimes the boys from the other camp would come over, and Colossus, and they would try to throw them into the lake or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, she's a nice Jewish girl from New York. She's going to go to summer camp up in the Finger Lakes. That's what they do. So she's going to be good at it. That's right.
So yes,
she'd be the counselor you'd always be worried about catching you doing stuff behind their back because she'd just walk through the wall.
That's true too. Right. All right, so that was mine. So let's move on. The next youngest on the show is J.A. Scott. So let's get J.A.'s here right now. J.A.'s job for this round is he's not going to be a caddy all his life. Working out on the golf course. Is he a diabetic? How many Cokes did he have? Let's see who's going to be that caddy on the golf course. It's going to be Leonardo from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So JA's got to mash up being a caddy at the same time as being a hero in a half shell. So JA, what you going to do with that?
So obviously Leonardo being the leader, and he's all about precision. And also, because he wields the katanas, he's all about having the perfect instrument. So as a caddy, he would always be able to identify the perfect club one should use for each swing. So he would be highly recommended and sought after by club members who want a caddy because not only A, is he always picking the right club for them, B, they can just tip him with pizza. So he's like the cheapest kid ever on the golf course.
And if your ball goes in the drink, then you can recreate that really terrible level from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle NES game that used to give me nightmares, where you would have to swim and disfuse all the bombs. Oh my God, that was terrible.
The worst.
Yeah, he can also get his brothers to help out, right? Although, I don't know. Michelangelo's probably on the golf carts just tooling around.
They'd have other jobs around the country club. Like one would be working the pool, one would be at the snack bar, one would be in the pro shop.
There you go.
Would be the pro shop guy who would just have pithy one-liners whenever you tried on a new pair of plaid pants.
There you go. So last one, the oldest person on this show.
Eldest.
Eldest.
Give him some respect.
We're not...
Get off my lawn.
All right. Mikey, you got the wonderful job of babysitter. And your character that will be the babysitter will be... Oh, look at that. It is... Ms. Marvel, that's right. Kamala Khan from those great Marvel comic books. So she's your babysitter. Yes. Mash that up. You know? Yes.
She would rule with absolute law because she got the swatting hand. She's got the swatting hand, and she's like big on corporal punishment. And she doesn't even have to use it. She just has to go in there and she just has to show, listen, everybody shut up or you're going to get the hand, right? She's the one whose hand grows, right? I mean, she stretches or something.
She embiggens.
There you go.
She embiggens. Right. So, and it also helps with cleaning up Legos because you get two swatting hands and they become scoop hands. Yeah, I've never read a single thing. I just know her hand grows. I know that because I've seen a picture, but don't know anything about her. Yeah. Nothing like beating children to make you good at your job.
I was going to say, I feel like being able to embiggen. I mean, I've seen Adventures in Babysitting. That would be really helpful.
It would be.
Grow really tall, or
she's fun. She doesn't have to use that swatting fan. She's just fun. She's charming and quirky and girl next door stuff. That's perfect. That's right. I would trust Kamala Khan with my kids. There you go. Great babysitter, in my opinion. Let's move on to the last round where we're all going to take turns making up a story about the last one. So we're going to give it one final spin, and this is going to be the job that we're all going to have to make a story about. And that would be the classic job of fast food worker. Everybody doesn't want to do that, but some people have to do that during the summertime. I had to do that. I worked at and of course, our character will be the original teen superhero. That would be Robin. So Robin, as a fast food worker, we're all going to take a turn coming up with a line of this story. We're going to start off with Chad, and we're going to tell a funny story about Robin being a fast food worker.
Well, first things first, this explains why there are so many Robins. Because you got to keep those shifts going at the old Bat Burger. So you can pull up to the counter and maybe you're going to get Dick Grayson on the drive-thru, Tim Drake up at the counter, Jason in the back. I don't know why Jason Todd has a ponytail and a hairnet in my story, but they're back there making all these Bat Burgers. They've been trained by District Manager Bruce Wayne to be able to handle whatever Bat Burger emergencies come their way. But the bad part is they're in Gotham City, J.A., so what happens next?
Well, there's always drama among the staff at a fast food joint, so you never know when you're going to go in. They might be arguing with you, but they might be fighting with each other, and it can often be heard.
They keep flirting with Stephanie.
Dick Grayson yelling to Jason Todd, "You're dead to me!"
Don't make me get the crowbar.
It's really tough starting a fast food chain in Gotham City because you always have to worry about angry clowns. Except it's not the Joker in this case. It's Mr. Ronald McDonald, who is the sociopath trying to bring down the Bat Burger. He's cutting in, he's muscling in my turf, and nobody does that. So who does he get? The Rogues Gallery from McDonald Land. He sends Grimace over there with a rocket launcher. He sends early bird dropping grenades. It's a war zone. The Hamburglar is a legit criminal here. He spent time in Arkham. You don't want to trust the Hamburglar. He's not going to just steal your hamburgers. He's going to steal.
Rubble, bitches.
Well, he finishes out his shift and punches out and thinks to himself, how different his life would have been. He'd been found after his parents were terribly killed in the circus by someone like, I don't know, a millionaire, as opposed to Wendy. And that's it. My name is Wendy. Come stay with me. He would have never done the candle ritual down in the break room. He would have never done any of that. He hates his life. And he doesn't understand why he can't wear long pants when he's working the grill. Because the splatter
those grease splashes.
They're all complaining about those polyester uniforms they gotta wear.
That's right. The health department's coming in and they're like, ma'am, they need to wear pants. And they're like, they are wearing pants. No, they're wearing emerald short pants and you can't have that.
Imagine the grease fires you get on those things.
Just terrible. Just the whole thing. But that's the next Elseworlds book. We're going to pitch it.
I kind of like this Rogues Gallery of Ronald McDonald characters. I might actually do that. Any case, we hope that you enjoy Mashups. We've got a review of a comic book coming up right after this commercial break. It is Cages by Dave McKean. Stay tuned for more serious stuff. Not so much the fun.
Hello, Last Comic Shop podcast listeners. It is George from Shortbox Summary. The only thing I like more than reading comics is collecting comics, and the only thing I like more than collecting comics is taking care of the comics I've collected. And there is no better place to get bags and boards for your favorite, heck, even your least favorite comics than BCW Supplies. You can get all the bags, boards, boxes, frames, and more that you need to help keep your comic collection in its best shape. Listeners of this podcast can enjoy 10% off their order with code LCSPOD. That's LCSPOD for 10% off your entire order. Keep it tuned to the Last Comic Shop podcast for the best in comic stock and the best in comic book supply savings, courtesy of BCW.
Hello, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Dr. Issues.
And we're the hosts of Capes on the Couch, the podcast where comics get counseling.
Superheroes don't always get to go home happy. That's where we come in.
We offer psychiatric and mental health evaluation of comic book characters.
We also chat with some of your favorite creators,
Al Ewing,
Erica Schultz,
Gail Simone,
Philip Kennedy Johnson,
Chris Claremont,
about their work on comics.
So check out all our episodes at capesonthecouch.com and follow us at Capes on the Couch on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hashtag because comics.
All right, we're back with more of the Last Comic Shop, and it is now time for our Read Pile review. Yes, that time of every single show where Mikey wants to take comic books in strange new places.
I try to make you guys read interesting things that are different from what you usually read. So,
and I love it. And this book was no different. It is Cages by Dave McKean, and this Read Pile review is brought to you by bcwsupplies.com. For all those bags, boards, boxes, all that miscellaneous comic book brack, go to bcwsupplies.com today. Use the promo code LCSPOD at checkout, and you can save yourself 10% on that stuff you're going to buy anyways to keep your comic books looking fresh, as well as trading cards and all other kind of collectible jazz. All over at bcwsupplies.com, promo code LCSPOD at checkout. But yes, Cages by Dave McKean. Did anybody else work on this, J.A.?
No, not really. I mean, you had like Claire Haythornwaite did some pencils, but I mean, it was mostly Dave McKean. Yeah, so Cages was a 10-issue comic book limited series by Dave McKean, published between 1990 and 96, and then collected later into a couple of different volumes. It was out of print for a long time, and Dark Horse brought it back in the 2000s. And it won 2 Harvey Awards, one for Best New Series, and also was nominated for a Special Award for Excellence in Presentation and Best Artist and Best Graphic Album of previously published work in 1999. Also nominated for the Best Finite Series at the Eisner Awards in 93. It did not win, though.
And just to add, my softcover copy of these 10 issues says on the back, it's labeled under graphic novel / literary. So you know you're getting into serious stuff when you're stepping into these cages.
Yes.
That's right. Well, let's talk about the 10-cent synopsis for Cages. Mm-hmm. Mikey, what happens? I mean, this was your book, so... Mm-hmm. And you usually give a good thin dime, so...
At face value, it's about a frustrated artist named Leo, who moves into an apartment building that is inhabited by very interesting folks experiencing interesting experiences. But really what it's about, art and music and creativity, and it is about the search for meaning and literal and metaphorical cages that people put themselves in, whether or not they're actually literally trapped inside an apartment or trapped creatively. And it goes a lot of different places, and it's a wonderfully challenging book, and I love it with every ounce of my heart.
And cats. There's a cat.
And a cat. There's a cat.
Yeah, who's a dude, but a cat.
Maybe.
Dude, but a cat. Maybe.
Trucks.
Right.
That's a 10-cent synopsis. We're going to get the initial thoughts from Chad, because in the text chain that was going on as we were talking, he initially was a little bit like, I don't know about this, but then you warmed up to it, Chad?
Yeah, so the initial first maybe 10, 20 pages of this, it's a lot of heavy prose setting up, creation myths, and I was like, oh, this is a bunch of pretentious, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna be bad. And then I got into the story itself, the story proper, and it is not a linear story, but it goes through, there's the jazz artist, and I thought, like, his take on life was really inspiring, and his, the way he created. And you're sitting around the jazz club and hearing all these other guys talk about him, and the one night where someone had passed away, was it his mom that passed away? I forget. And puts on this concert that keeps everybody wrapped. Or you have the artist who is moving into this brand new apartment and just trying to figure out what he wants to paint, and he meets this woman who I swear gets younger as the story goes on. She looked a lot older to me initially, and then by the time the story wraps up, I think she de-ages by about 10 or 15 years.
Really? I thought it was the opposite. I thought the end she looked the oldest.
It is what it is. But and then you have the art or the author who's like the Salman Rushdie, but he's just trapped inside the apartment, and he's there, and his whole gimmick is he doesn't want to leave because he's offended people, but these mysterious strangers are taking the things away, that everything that he loves they take away, and his wife's like, why didn't they take me away? There's all sorts of thoughtful explorations in here, and like as a linear story, I don't know if I picked everything up that Dave McKean was laying down, but I did enjoy like the feelings and the process here. And like I said, there were some parts where I was confused, particularly the cat guy. Like, was that a character I was supposed to recognize from earlier?
Mm-hmm. That's Bill. That's the old lady's husband who went missing. Who's talking about her husband going missing for 5 years. That's him.
Yeah, she's waiting for him to come home.
Yeah, and he's been trying to come home. He's been scratching at the door and the bird the whole time. That's why at the end of it, he's like, there's a parrot I have to strangle.
There's a lot of things you have to interpret and sort of draw your own. There's some anger in here that pops up along the way. He really does go and run the gamut here in this particular story. And by the time it was all done, I told the guys, I don't want to synopsisize it, but I really enjoyed my experience. It went through real fast.
Yeah, it did not go quite so fast for me. It was a bit heavy lifting at times to get through some of the text, I will admit. What I was really struck by, and I don't think we're probably going to talk enough about it, though Mikey might, because he covers all bases. I love the art because it wasn't just one thing. You would have pages and pages and pages of this sketchy black and white art, and then suddenly you'd go to these beautiful charcoal drawings, and then it would be collages with photographs. And whenever that was happening, I really loved that because it would come in at just the right moment when you needed either a breath of fresh air or an emotional beat. And instead of getting another page of just sketchy black and white, suddenly you're inundated with these incredible... I really was drawn to the collages, mainly probably because I'm a photographer at heart, and I loved what he was doing with the photographs and then painting over them or drawing over them. So just the whole multimedia experience of the whole thing really took it out of just being a graphic novel, a graphic comic book. And I loved that. I was like, oh, wow, this is different. This is unique. This is interesting. Those aspects of the story I really enjoyed.
I think I'm going to echo JA's sentiment that this took me a long time to read. I had to keep on putting it down and picking it back up. It felt like homework at times to me. And really the saving grace was the art. If I just had kind of took a step back and just viewed it from a visual standpoint, it was very, very interesting. And I gave Dave McKean a lot of credit for that. But I almost felt like at times I was just like, with other work that I've seen Dave do, first thing I think of is, Arkham Asylum. It's very famous. People know about that. Mm-hmm. And I felt like with that, it's like, okay, he was paired with Grant Morrison, who is maybe more of a linear storyteller. There was some sort of storytelling problem I had, where there were times when the story seemed to drag on way too long. Like I liked the story about the woman that lives by herself and is just talking and talking and talking and talking about recipes and this and that. But that went on about 15 pages too long. I got the point, but there were other points in which I didn't think there was enough. One of my favorite parts was like the last 20 pages of the book, where you just had two people that were basically going on a date. In essence, they broke into an art gallery and he took her up to the roof and then they made love. And there's this cool thing where this god and this cat god are looking down and commenting and they're having like this banter. And I thought that was really great, but there wasn't enough of that. Instead, there was this other people with pitchforks and torches. And I didn't understand any of that. I was like, why are they, is that real? Is it not real? Is any of this real? Like, it's very difficult if you're going into this trying to find like a linear narrative. Forget it. And I've read like stuff like artsy, again, we just read Jerome a couple months ago and that was artsy in a different way. I don't know. I like that more, maybe because of the linear storytelling. This stuff just threw me off. But Mikey, I think we've all talked and you've been very patient. Yeah. So,
well, I think I have to take back something. It actually is linear. It's just there's different characters that it breaks off to. So different books focus on different characters, and I think it feels disjointed, and it's very non-traditional. The main storyline is pretty simple, really. It's a guy moves into this apartment. He's getting artist block. He meets a girl. They slowly fall in love. They find out that the guy downstairs is a writer and he's had threats on his life, and they want to get him out of, help him escape his cage. And actually, he's one of the novels that he wrote in the book is a book called Cages, which is what, essentially, you're right. He's like a Salman Rushdie. He wrote something that people saw as a blaspheme, and they've been coming after him, so he's been in hiding for so long. But so the story there is simple, but it's where it goes. And I think one of those things that maybe suffers a little from, I don't know how I would explain this, because it took him 6 years to do this book. Starts and stops, and so my experience with this book was I knew Dave McKean from Sandman covers and Black Orchid, and then Arkham Asylum came out, and I just fell in love with Dave McKean's thing. There was something about his stuff that happened, and I was actually, it was 1991. I was in Phantom of the Attic when it was in the old location where the gaming store is now, and I found the first 3 issues. I didn't even know it was a thing. I had no idea it was even a thing. It was by Tundra, so I bought them, and I loved them. And I kept going back looking for more, because in my mind, comics came out monthly, you know what I mean? And it took forever for this book to come out. And I didn't own the 9th issue as a single issue until like a year ago.
Oh, that's so frustrating.
I couldn't find it anywhere. But in 1998, I went to the Pittsburgh Comic Con. It was the first Pittsburgh Comic Con I'd ever gone to. I was like 25 years old. And Dennis Kitchen was there from Kitchen Sink. And he had the books out there, and they had a slip-cased hardcover version of Cages. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't been able to find the 9th issue of that. I'm missing a chapter. So I know how it ends, but I'm missing like one single chapter, and I don't know what happens in that chapter. He's like, well, it's all in here, but he's like, the spine is broken on this one, and the pages are falling out of it. He'd sell it to you for $30. And I bought it, and I took it home. And I tore all the pages out of the center, and I put wood glue in the middle, and I glued it back together. And I had my own hardcover slip-cased version of Cages, and I read the whole story finally, and I was like, okay, I get it a little more now, but there was something about that book that just grabbed me. J.A.'s right. Like, the majority of the book is done in this sort of rather scratchy black, white, and like a shade of like bluish gray. But then there's these jaunts, and there's like this little section, especially where the old lady, where she's talking about her husband gone missing, who you get the vibe that he left her. There's a section in there where she talks about her childhood, and it flashes into these big full color panels of like fields of flowers and a young girl dancing in these fields of flowers. And then it goes back to this black and gray. So artistically, it just was like, as somebody who wanted to be an artist myself and venture into that direction a little bit, the message of it really sort of hammered home to me about creativity and about art and about me, like the things Angel says about music and jazz, and the story he tells about the two brothers. One was a technical musician and one was a free musician, and they have a falling out and they walk away from each other. And as they're walking, they start to realize that maybe a little bit of him was right, and maybe a little bit of him was right, and they meet together in the middle again. And that's where jazz comes. I mean, it just, and I was just as confused by the creation myths in the beginning of it as you guys were. I'm like, what am I getting into with this? Like, they were charming, and then you could almost attribute them to characters in the book. You could almost see how one is being told by one person and another could be being told. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but that's all. There's just something about it that philosophically really hammered home to me. If the artist wanted you to know what he meant, he would have written you a letter. And I think that's like the whole gist of the book, is like, if you needed it explained to you, then they would have explained it to you. I mean, I love reading Superman and Spider-Man. I love that. I just read the Marvel version of the Superman versus Spider-Man as a palate cleanser after reading, because Cages is heavy, and I love that. I love that kind of stuff. But every so often, I want this, and it just. Now, I
have a question for you on the publication. When it first came out, the first issue, did it have all, like in the one we read was obviously the collected edition. It had, I don't know, 8 pages of prose, 9 pages of just written prose. Was that in the first issue of the... Okay, so like half of the first issue was just text.
Yeah,
a lot of text.
It's definitely a lot. And his storytelling is really good. Like the camera angles that he uses, and I think the pacing is great. I don't know. Like those pages of the cat just wandering around. Like, some people may find that boring, but I just think it's intriguing, like how he shows the cat going from floor to floor. Like, I don't know. There's something about it that...
No, I think as an artistic expression, like, it is really neat, and the vibes you get from the stories are really good. For me, sometimes I stumbled with some of the metaphor stuff. The guy in charge of the art gallery who's like, can you point me towards the rabbit? And he holds up the sign. Yeah. Like, he doesn't have the words for things, and he's just putting stuff in there. Or like the people that come and take the stuff away from the author. Who are those people? Like, why? I guess some of those elements probably need to go through and read this again. But I think from an artist's point of view, it really is a fun exploration of art and what art does to artists and what art takes away from artists sometimes, and, how people get hung up in their own ways of doing things, and how sometimes the world responds and sometimes the world doesn't respond the way they want it to. I thought all that stuff was really interesting.
I mean, Mikey, you don't have to sell me on the pictures, right? Because the pictures for me is what saved this. The pictures were actually what made this a memorable experience for me. It was actually the prose. It was actually the text. It was actually... Again, to my point, I felt like there were certain sections of this book that they seemed to drag. They seemed to go on a couple pages too long. Like, I get there was like that one scene where, he knocks on the door and he finds the author, and he's like, oh man, I've read your books and stuff. And I could relate to that, because like I've read comic books, and I've met people that have created things, and I've been like, dude, that was so cool that you created this. And it was neat to have that, there where, you're meeting somebody that creates, and they're like, this is what I felt like it went on too long. The woman in the house, she was lonely.
See, I love that issue.
Went on too long, Mikey. It was like,
it's the whole issue.
5 pages, 10 pages too long. It was just, I got what the gist was, but if it had not been for the art, I love a good Salvador Dali movie where you have like somebody dragging a piano full of dead donkeys across a room. That's cool to look at. Again, it's 15 to 20 seconds, and you're like, that's a neat image. let's move on.
I think the problem with that is by the end of the movie, you've got a piano with a bunch of dead donkeys in it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of books that you can read multiple times and get more and more out of. And sometimes it's not necessarily the same thing that you got before. Sometimes you're like, oh, wait, I get that. It took me a couple of readings before, like the guys who are going in and taking, what's his name? Jonathan, the writer guy, the guys who come in and take things. It's metaphor, of course. There's a lot of metaphors in this. And I just think it's like the personal cost of like free expression.
Are they the critics of the critic? Because like this guy's writing criticisms of other books and stuff.
Yeah, he's basically in witness protection, basically. And these guys are coming in every so often, taking furniture that he loves and paintings that he loves, and that's why that whole with his wife is touching, because she does have this moment where she's like, "Why haven't they taken me?" So basically, like, "Don't you love me?" And at the end of the story, she is the only thing that he escapes with. She's the only thing that's valuable enough to him to take with him. As an example of what comics can be, this is one that I would. Everybody has different things that they latch onto and different tastes, and it's like it teeters very close to the edge of pretentious, I think.
Oh, it starts very heavy into pretentious.
Oh
yeah, but I think it.
Yes,
I think it loosens up.
Yeah, it's one of those books that I think, depending on where you are in your mindset going in, you're going to take very different things from it or to it or enjoy it. And, if you're in a certain mindset, this might be the perfect itch. And from another point of view, you might come in and be like, this is just, pretentious, or it's over the top, or I'm not getting it, or it's just long. And he's being so creative as in to almost suck the creativity out of the thing that he's trying to push.
Yeah. And that's it's like anything, really. Like, there are some people who like absolutely love Guy Ritchie movies, but would look at a Francois Truffaut movie and be like, "What is this bullshit?" They're both very valid. So not everything is going to land for everybody. But
good luck.
It was just like nothing I had read before, nothing I'd seen before, nothing like, and I was in the midst of pretension. Like I was reading only Vertigo books and shit. Like I was like pretentious. But I think it kind of, that one issue with the art critic, it sort of makes you turn that pretension. It's like he's talking about a portrait of a woman and how her face, many people try to say that her face is representation of complacency in women and all this other stuff. He's like, but in truth, she just was bored, senseless, and that's the only face that she could hold.
Right. It was his sister or whatever, and she was tired of being there that day.
All of the things that critics and things say or try to interpret from art sometimes just come down to, it just looked good. It just looked pretty, and it just sounded
but that's the frustrating thing, is I'm here reading this pretentious book, and I'm trying to put as much pretension into it as I can, and then he's letting the air out and be like, well, sometimes people just look that way that day. And it's like, no, you put these lines on this paper for a reason, and the lines should have a reason why we're there. What the hell is this collage? It's
gotta matter, or else what was the point of it all?
Yes.
Like I feel like he's knocking himself down a few pegs by the end of it. I really do.
Yeah.
I feel like he's just kind of like.
I wonder if that also has. I mean, as a creator, as we said, it took 6 years to put this out, so you notice subtle changes as it's going, because his art changes a bit, the way he's drawing changes, the way he's telling the story changes. I think just time has changed his approach to some of this. So I wonder if by the end, 6 years into this, which was heavily delayed, had 2 different presses. I think the first 7 issues were Tundra did the first 7 issues, and then Kinchin Secret Press did 8 through 10. So all of the stuff behind the scenes over these 6 years, I think changes the story itself, or became part of the creative process.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would love to hear. I've never seen any interviews or anything with him, but I'd love to talk to him about this at some point. And he's done a lot of his books that he's done with Neil Gaiman are really fan, and he's also done his own. He's done things like Pictures That Tick, which are short story collections, and he's done some other things since then.
I thought it was a fun exploration of the whole creative process. But yeah, I think I might need to give it another go round or two before
Yeah.
I feel like I really wrap my brain around it.
Well, one thing that we're going to give a go around is our rating section, and that's going to be right after this commercial break. So stay tuned for more Last Comic Shop as well as recommendations right after this.
Being a PI, you learn fast what seems like a normal case never is. You never realize how much you're going to need your friends. You can never guess how near your enemies are. And you never know who to trust. Now I'm chasing down an ancient artifact, the only thing that can stop this newly unearthed terror. It sounds crazy, but I'm not thinking how nuts it all is. All I can think about is the only man who's ever managed to grab my heart is right at the heart of this mystery. And why? Every time my heart gets involved in anything, there's always a monster waiting in the shadows to break it.
Ripped from the pages of the self-titled comic book comes Dash, a new queer supernatural noir podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Podcast Dash, on Instagram at dash.noir, or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, we're back with more Last Comic Shop, and it is now time for ratings. That time of every single show where we say this was art, and we try to assign a value to art, which is kind of weird. It's a weird thing to think about, assigning value to art. But J.A. Scott's going to try. He's going to try to give us a 1 out of 4 scale that matches this.
There is no value to art, man. It's just out there. It's creativity, man. It's just, it's in the ether. You just gotta accept it and live it. Be it.
Yeah.
Do it. Just gotta.
I think I'm choking on protection.
Get a job, you hippie.
Yeah. Cut your hair.
Yeah, we're going to go 1 out of 4 creative endeavors.
Lennon said, I'm an artist.
Because this book was really about creativity and then the sort of how people are creating things. And
Chad, why don't you go first, sir?
Like I said, I enjoyed this. I didn't expect to at first. I was begrudgingly getting through those first 10 pages or so and like, oh, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. And then I got into the heart of the stories, and I thought there was, heart there. I thought there was, an interesting exploration. You guys have sung the praises of the different art processes, whether it's the collage or, some of the musical notes, some different ways that McKean just mixes things up in this particular story. His style is one that has that roughness around the edges where, this isn't somebody like that I would describe as beautiful per se, but it does still feel really interesting and really just, it's something that is worth exploring. I don't know if it all landed for me, but at the end of the day, I did appreciate, some of the feelings and some of the various chapters. And like I said, so I'm going to give it a 3.75.
Lennon said, I'm an artist.
I think it's fun. I think a lot of my hangups are more so me than they are the work itself. But I think some of them are probably the work itself. So, take that. Creative endeavors.
Well, I'll go next, and I'm going to simply say I really am thankful to Mikey for finally getting me to sit down and read Cages. It's been on the peripheral for many, many years, and I've taken a look at it, and I'm like, ooh, that's a neat page, or that's a neat page, but I never read it. And so this week I had to read it. And I do know art, and I do know what I like. And as I said, there were parts of this book that just seemed to drag. There were parts that seemed like a slog to get to. There were other parts that were really, really good. And mostly it was around the art. I do love the fact that he kind of gives you 3 characters in this book. He gives you a writer, he gives you an artist, he gives you a musician. And again, those are like the major pillars of the artistic community, right? Like, again, so you get these kind of interweavings between the stories. To be blunt, I didn't understand really why there was that whole issue about the woman that lived in the apartment that was just lonely. Like, I just didn't get that. I mean, I get it that from the idea that these are people that are living in cages, and that was a cage that she created. And I was like, maybe it's artistic because she has recipes and she's a cook and art is also cooking. I don't know, but I just seemed to drag on for a really long time. But I'm never going to decry a comic book for trying to push the envelope on what you can do with a comic book medium, right? I just feel like if I had my druthers between Cages and, say, Asterius Polyp, I'm going to read Asterius Polyp every single day of the week because I feel like it's a better story. This is not as much a story as much as artistic tour de force or something that you go to a gallery and you just walk through and you look at the different art and you're like, oh, that's fascinating. Oh, that's really interesting. But from a narrative perspective, not so much. And so I'm just going to give this a 3.
Lennon said, I'm an artist.
I think it's something that you should experience. I think it's something you should enjoy. But if I had, again, my druthers with other artistic, highly intellectual comics, again, this is borderline pretentious. And I didn't get that from, like, say, Asterius Polyp. J.A.?
I don't want to repeat what you or Chad said. You covered a lot of the bases. I feel that this is something that if you're going to read it, you almost should read it almost a chapter at a time and a chapter a day at the most, maybe. I don't know. It's one of those books that probably needs a bit of breathing room while you're reading it so that you can unpack what he's trying to say. I don't know if that would improve it or not, because it is sort of on that borderline level of, is it pretentious or is it creative? And maybe that's the point too. I don't know, but that's very pretentious if that was the point of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. I think you both of being much too nice because it's a Mikey Wood pick, and we don't want to make him angry. It's a 2 for me.
Yeah. Lennon said, "I'm an artist."
It was a slog. The art was really beautiful, but the actual story I found that I wasn't very invested in the characters. And again, I said, I feel like I'm being unfair a bit, but maybe it's just because of the truncated time span in which we had to read it. And it was just a lot there that didn't speak to me. So it was one of those books there. I couldn't find interest in a lot of the characters, except the cat. I did like the cat. I am a fan of cats. So I encourage people to read it. Your mileage may vary, and obviously it does speak to some people, and that's what art is supposed to do. Different horses for different courses. So sorry, this one didn't line up with me, Mikey. But again, also, I think it's one of those things that if you're in a different place or your mind's in a different place, maybe it does. Just one of those time of life things, I guess.
And I think that's a good thing for art. I mean, like I said, it flip-flop back and forth over whether or not this or Sandman is like my favorite comic of all time. And I read this again, and I was just like, this is it. I mean, that could change. But
after you read Sandman, it's Sandman.
And you're
after
right.
you read this,
and
it's
this
again.
is one of those things where, like an X-Force issue doesn't have to speak to you; it has to entertain you. You should be entertained by it too. But this is something that needs to land, and if it doesn't, it doesn't, and it doesn't mean anything. And it's so for me, it's and maybe it is just because of what you're into and what you need at that moment, and maybe it was something that I needed at the moment and I continue to need or something like that. But this is it will always be a 4 for me.
Lennon said, "I'm an artist."
Because and I also envy it. Like I really wish I could make comics like that. Like I really do. Like it's really, really pretty.
Well, some other folks made comic books, and we're going to talk about it in our recommendations section. In addition to going out to your local comic book shop and picking up a copy of Cages, and maybe single issues if you can find them, although issue 9 seems to be very difficult to find. Really hard. You can also pick it up in some collections that are out there if you want to check it out for yourself. But these are other books that you might want to check out. We're going to go ahead and start off with Jay Scott. So, Jay, what do you got this week?
So this is something you can definitely pick up in single issues. It's out now, and it will be for the next 6 or 7 months. As I said, I did like the cat, and out now from DC is the limited series that's running in the Absolute Universe, Absolute Catwoman, by Scott Snyder, Che Grayson, art by Bengal.
This follows along with the Catwoman from the Absolute Batman series as she goes up against a new nemesis who showed up at the end of issue 1, everyone's favorite Batgirl herself, Cassie Kane. So we get Absolute Catwoman and Absolute Cassie Kane all in this new limited series from DC. So pick it up. The Absolute Universe is going off. Absolute Batman is just selling like hotcakes, and everything in the Absolute Universe has just latched onto it. Is the rising tide that is lifting all boats, and one of them is which I think is just going to be 6-issue limited series, Absolute Catwoman. That is my recommendation. Pick it up. Enjoy it.
All right. Chad, do you also have a comic book for us?
Yeah. So I'm going to go a different tack. I'm actually reporting to you live on location from the beach. And so we read this Cage's book, which is pretty heavy. And so my recommendation is going to be something that is not. It was actually a series of books that I found before I left, and I tossed them in my bag. It is Star Wars Splinter of the Mind's Eye. Now, I know just a little bit of background. It was originally intended to be the low-budget sequel to Star Wars, if it didn't do so well, but it turns out lots of people like that Star Wars stuff. What I like about it is it has Terry Austin as the writer and the inker and Chris Sprouse as the penciler. And I love that stuff. I'm mildly interested in the Star Wars, but I think it's going to make for a really fun beach read. And I know that when initially it came out, there was some tension between Luke and Leia. It's kind of gross. You think the Force would work that stuff out somehow.
Now, this you were recommending, is this the comic version of it?
This is the comic book version from Dark Horse back in the day.
Based off of the novel. Yes, by Alan Dean Foster, who wrote the novel.
And that came out in between the original Star Wars and Empire.
Right, so, the novel came out in 1978.
So, lots of things had been rewritten, and I'm sure they changed the comic series that there's not that tension between Luke and Leia in this one as much, but I'm still interested to see how it shakes out.
Talking about sexual tension in comic books and things that I like, I'm also going to be recommending a book that deals with beaches. And that is this year's Marvel swimsuit issue. Yay! I've been a fan of the Marvel swimsuit issues all the way back to the early 90s. And in recent years, they've become quite fun. They're not just a bunch of pinups of scantily clad babes anymore. They tell some really good stories. And boy, howdy, did Marvel put together a who's who of cool people to write little vignettes all through this year's edition. Not only do you get a J. Scott Campbell cover with all of the Spider family, all enjoying a poolside dip on some sort of rooftop, but then you get some really great stories written by Daniel Kibblesmith and Rainbow Rao and Dan Chicade, who does the Flash Gordon comic strip that I really love, and Cody Ziegler. And then you've got some really great artists like Phil Noto and Pablo Collar and Rachel Rosenberg. And there's a great story where Namor throws a beach party and invites everybody. And then he loses at volleyball and kicks everybody out because he's Namor. And that's what he would do. There's another great story where Beast is the pool master at the Xavier Mansion, despite the fact that he doesn't really like to get wet because he's obviously just kind of like a big dog.
Also, imagine all the fur. Imagine all the fur he'd have to clean up. See, he's the pool master and he's cleaning the pool.
But he does do the Cannonball special. And gets Psylocke and Jean Grey and Storm all wet on the sidelines. Literally, they're soaked from this cannonball. Any case, if you really enjoy just fun, tongue-in-cheek comic books, especially ones that are easy to read, pick up the Marvel Swimsuit Special. Brand new Beach Day.
Excellent.
Mikey, finish us off.
I'm going to ruin everybody's night by recommending a movie instead of a comic book.
What?
Yeah, oh my God. But if you thought Cages was pretentious and weird, you should watch Dave McKean's film written by Sandman's Neil Gaiman, which I know, he's been, but anyway. And with some production work by Jim Henson's Creature Shop and everything. It's a film called Mirror Mask, which is another one of those things that people have described as beautiful but hollow. I actually really enjoy it. It's about a girl who basically wakes up in this weird dream realm, and it's worth watching just for the makeup and the character designs and things like that. And it wasn't shot on a huge budget or anything like that, but if you can imagine Dave McKean's visuals as live action film, that's what you're getting here. It's almost like Sucker Punch, where you could like turn it on in the background with the volume down, and it's awesome. But you know, I actually enjoy it. But I enjoy.
It sounds a lot like Labyrinth. Like you were like, creature.
It's very labyrinthian. It's very similar to that vibe.
Okay, I might have to check it out. I love Jim Henson's Creature Shop, so that might be a recommendation I take you up on. Things that we hope that you take up on is being a fan of The Last Comic Shop, and you can easily do that by just rate, reviewing, and subscribing over at www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com. We are well into the summer months, and we've only got a couple more weeks here until it is fall. And with fall comes things like our spooky Halloween books that we'll be reading, other than it's December and all this other jazz, all throughout the 2026. So if you like pretentious books, if you like silly books, if you like everything in between, The Last Comic Shop's got an episode for you. So get out there and listen to not only the episodes coming up, but all of our over 300 past episodes. All available for you out on our website, www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com.
All right, and while we might be the Last Comic Shop podcast, we don't want to be the Last Comic Shop, so we encourage everybody to get out there and support your shops, whether that is buying copies of Cages by Dave McKean, or maybe things like the Marvel swimsuit issue, also an artistic endeavor, or Splinter of the Mind's Eye from Star Wars, which is a deep cut, but I'm really excited about all the Terry Austin of it all, and the Chris Sprouse. Or J.A.'s pick, Absolute Catwoman by that Snyder guy and Bengal and a couple other folks, and all the fun that comes along with that stuff. But all that and more waits for you at your local comic shop. So make sure you pop in and check those things out, and then circle back to the website, www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com, where you can find links to those episodes that Andy had mentioned. You can find links to the socials. YouTube, we're on Blue Sky, we're out there on the internet, and we're loving every minute of it. But you can also find links to the merch store. Jay, what do we got this week?
T-shirts, coffee mugs, tote bags, hats. It is the summer month, so you can still pick up the summer special T-shirt of The Last Comic Shop with the palm trees, or get that one and get the upcoming October Bats in the Belfry special edition of the Last Comic Shop podcast T-shirt. Show your love for the shop and wear it on your sleeve or on your shirt or on your back or anywhere. Put it in the tote bag. And
I won't lie, it's my favorite one. I love that Bats in the Belfry one. It's sad that it's only around for like a month, but like, boy, it's my favorite alternative logo that we have. Although the summer one's pretty cool too.
It's like the Shamrock Shake of shirts that it's like everybody loves it, but it's only here for a minute. Yeah.
Limited time, and it looks good in green.
One thing that also looks good in saving some green is using our promo code, Mikey, to get your comic book supplies. What is that promo code?
You know, it's funny. If you watch the show, you get all the hints by knowing the name of the show. So it's LCSPOD, LCS Pod, Last Comic Shop Podcast. So LCSPOD over at BCW Comic Supplies. You can buy boxes, you can buy bags. They have self-sealing bags, which are the greatest things in the world. They have those fancy hard plastic comic book boxes if you're some kind of Richie and you want to show off. Or they've got the cardboard boxes for all us peasants down here on the ground. But yeah, okay, go ahead and get your stuff. LCSPOD, 10% off BCW supplies.
Yeah, but Mikey, make sure you don't store your comics on the ground. That's a big no-no. You want to keep those elevated. Just in case
floods.
Yeah, groundwater or something.
Right.
I was the host with the most, Andy Larson. I was joined by Jay Scott, Chad Smith, and the wonderful Mikey Wood. And we hope you come back to the last comic shop next week. We've got X-Men Elsewhen, the Marvel Arts book that's been tearing things up. It's real hard to get a copy of that nowadays, but it's John Byrne back doing X-Men, and we've got it next week. Until then, stay safe, stay arty, stay artistic.
And we will never ask Mike to pick a book again.
What do you mean? We got this. We got Tail Gunner Joe.
Comic Shop Podcast was a 2026 Black Angus production.